Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Rose and today we're going to talk terrarium tips. Having this terrarium now for about half a year and experimenting with it and learning from you guys what is safe and what is smart, I have some important tips to share. Some tips that will hopefully help you to stay a little bit more safe because it turns out mine was actually a fire hazard. I'll put some close-up footage of all my plants in here at the end so that you can enjoy all my most favorite planty plants. And while you're here, please consider subscribing to my channel and liking this video and engaging with it. It's really helpful. I actually noticed that about 90% of people who watch my videos isn't currently subscribed, so it would be really awesome if you did. Thank you. First of all, it's really good to know that you don't need many of the fancy things that I have going on in here because the terrarium itself creates the situation that you want. So let's talk essentials first. Obviously, the first essential is to have either a terrarium or an aquarium or just a big glass vase, or even people are using prop boxes, so like plastic containers, either small or a little bit bigger, with see-through plastic, that's important, and a lid, so you can close it off. And actually, you don't even need a lid. I have created some terrariums where I just put plastic over the top, and then my boyfriend figured out that a glass, what do you call them? Lid of a pan fit on there pretty nicely. So now there is a lid on top of it. So you can be creative with it. Maybe go to the secondhand shop and shop for glass lids. That's the most important because that will help you to hold the humidity in for the plants. Now, to help get the humidity high in the first place, it's nice to put leca at the bottom, as I have here, so that when you wet the lecables, they will hold on to the moisture and keep it nice and humid in there. When I first started, that's all I had. I had the terrarium, the lecables, and then I sprayed the terrarium once or twice a day with one of these pressure spray thingies. It's actually really nice because I put my liquid gold leaf foliar spray in there, so then all the plants get a nice boost as well. The other thing that is most important is light. So either you can put your terrarium in a place where it gets enough light for the plants that you put in, or you can use grow lights like I have here. And you haven't seen these yet, I think, maybe. These are new. They are little squares with a light underneath that I recently ordered from Amazon. I'll link them in the description below, and they will also be on my plant stuff page. Why did I change my lights? Because the lights that I had in the terrarium, which were really nice, like the bendy ones, super practical, but they are not waterproof. I noticed that the metal on the lights, there was starting to be some rust. And this is not even a fire hazard that I was talking about, but I think it's still not very safe to have something rusting that has electricity in it. So I decided to buy some. These are dimmable, so that's really nice. There we go, you can dim them as much as you want. And also waterproof. So that's an important thing to look at when you're getting lights for your terrarium, especially if you're going to place them inside, which I thought I was going to do with these. That's why they are waterproof. But they're sitting in 80+ humidity all the time. So make sure that your lights are waterproof and practical, because the lights that I got are very practical for, I'm pointing at my shelves, they're super practical for shelves, but in here they were actually not very practical at all. They were taking up space and they were wobbly and I couldn't attach them to anywhere. That's why I decided to get these, thinking I would hang them up inside. But actually I've noticed that because they put out a lot of light, a lot of foot candles, they're okay to sit on top. If you're putting lights on top though, make sure that they're not sitting right on the glass, because they can, at least mine, can get pretty warm, and that is a danger for breaking the glass. So I made sure the first few days to put some bits underneath to make the lights a little bit higher, and checking the glass regularly, feeling that it is a little bit warm, but it's not hot, so it has enough distance. Make sure you check that. Don't break your glass and don't get electricity shortcut? No, that's not the word. Shortage? You probably know what I mean, hopefully. Going away for a few days to my parents, I didn't want to ask my mother-in-law, who was taking care of her cats, to also spray my plants. Because one, she's already coming here twice a day to take care of our cats, and two, I don't know if she would spray them right, and these are my most expensive plants. So I set up this little system here. Hello, boyfriend. Go away with your feet. So I decided to set something up that would keep the humidity going even when I'm not there. This was actually a little bit of research because you can't just put your beautiful Elicomb's huge humidifier in there. That will take up space and be way too much humidity. But the smaller humidifiers that I was using before, they are for essential oils, and they basically only hold water for about an hour, which is not very useful if you have to fill up the water every hour. That's more work than spraying it twice a day. So I figured out that these little donut thingies are quite practical. They're also very fickle. They can stop working within a few hours. Sometimes the quality is just really not very good. I do use these, but they are difficult. Most important tips that I've gotten from friends is to make sure there is no water on the inside of this little hole, and to be careful, this is my own advice, to be careful with the attachment of the lead, because that's what I've been using to like move it, but obviously it's not made for that. So you have to be careful with that. Oops, there it goes. And then you can sit it in a big pot of water so that it takes a little bit longer for you to have to refill the water. That was good to keep the humidity higher in general in here. But then I ran into the problem, the humidity got very high and there was no airflow, or not enough airflow. Because when I didn't use the donut yet, I would leave the edges open so that there was some airflow, and there is a grit at the top that creates some airflow. But with the improved humidity of the donut, I also needed to improve the airflow, which is where this little thing came in. This is a little hand USB fan. It's actually very nice. Maybe I should use it in this heat wave. In case you haven't noticed, it's super hot right now in Holland, hence the bikini. I found this one that's actually really good. I have it on all day long, and then at night I switch it off because that's how it was in Thailand. It was very nice and breezy during the day and sunny, and then at night it would become very humid, and I thought that would recreate that a little bit, but that's purely my own brain. The most important tip that I have right now is about the heat mat that I had in there. I currently don't have it in there anymore because it's a heat wave and you don't need extra warmth. But for winter, I will have to put this back in. What I did was I put it underneath the leca in the terrarium, which I thought was a good idea because you can't burn the leca and the plants will still get nice and warm at the roots, which is the most important. But these mats are created for a flat surface. And since I had it in there and it got quite warm, you can see the leca balls have completely made it like bubbly. And I had another one actually that almost melted from this situation. And then I also heard that having them in somewhere where it's wet after watering the plants, that is actually really dangerous. And there have been terrarium shops that have burnt down because of this, because getting like electrical shortage, whatever, creating a fire and burning down like a whole shop. I've seen photos of rows and rows of terrariums, like a whole wall full of them all burnt out, which is not what we want, especially if you have animals in there. Very sad. I'm still discovering what I should do. They advise to put it underneath a terrarium, but for me that doesn't work because there is a wood thing it sits on. I would have to create some kind of space underneath, but then the warmth would probably disappear. Other people have said to create it at the back, to put the heat mat outside of the terrarium at the back, but not against the glass, because again, if you have heat against the glass, it can create cracks or even break your terrarium. I don't know what I'm doing with that yet, but I'm making sure that I'm creating a safe option. I don't know yet. But make sure that you are safe with this. You don't have your heat mats in a way that they shouldn't be. And I'm really sorry that I promoted that in a previous video because I don't want you guys to be at risk of having your house burn down. A few more practical things that I learned along the way. One is this hydrometer, whatever you call it. Don't just get the one that looks like this but doesn't have the separate thing, because these, although they can measure humidity, are actually not meant to be in anything above 80% humidity, which is silly because, well, doesn't matter, it's silly. But you have these ones with the separate thingy. Here it is. So this actually sits in the humidity and it's fine to live there. And this sits on top. So you don't break 1,000 of these before you realize this, which is what I did. Wasn't very smart. when you put your little plants in there, it can get quite wobbly with all the leca. So I stole this tip from Ashley, Plant Me Ashley. She uses coasters, but I actually used little tiles. This is what our bathroom has, to pop into the terrarium on top of the leca and then sit your plants on there. It really saves a lot of hassle and it keeps your plants well balanced. I also still spray with foliar spray. Even though the humidifier is in there, I like my leaves to have at least once a day a nice rain feeling with either just rainwater, which is what I use for my plants, but whatever you use is fine, or I actually use the foliar spray with liquid gold leaf in it, so that the leaves get not just the misty humidity, but also the actual like rain feeling. That's my personal experience. Of course, maybe you have plants in there that don't like that, then it's all up to you. It also really helps with getting leaves out that might be stuck. Anything else? Oh yes, one more thing. So I use these timers. So my little donut humidifier is not on all day. It turns on and off every hour during the day, and then at night it turns on every few hours for 1 hour, and then it switches off again. This is actually not one I advise because it's not very precise. I like it to be a little bit more specific, but we had these, so I used them. And then it's also really nice if you have good lights on top of your terrarium, these are really high quality, then the plants that sit around it can also receive some of that light. So this is my Casper cutting. I haven't put that video out yet, but you get to see him. He gets some nice light, not too hot, not too intense, but still more light than it would get if this light was not here. So a little tip, use the lights that you have as much as possible. If you have any plants in there with issues, then make sure that they are not touching other plants. Of course, some issues like pests can still transfer with a little bit of space between plants, but it definitely helps to keep a little bit of distance. For example, my beautiful Anthurium regale, the leaves were crisping up a lot and I thought it might be some kind of bacteria, which obviously I didn't want to spread to my other plants. So I kind of separated him and he was sitting in a corner where no one else could touch him. Luckily, I found out that it's actually probably from me touching him all the time as a new leaf that he got this damage. And the new leaf that I didn't touch much, doesn't seem to have it. So that's really good. And he is stunning. I love him so much now. I was really worried that this is my most expensive plant ever, that I bought this and had one with like bad genes or a bad bacteria. I'll add in some close-up footage of all the plants at the end so you can enjoy. So yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a thumbs up and comment below if you have a terrarium already or if you're thinking about getting one. I would love to hear. And I hope to see you in my next video. Ooh, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I would really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Bye.